We turn now to the third of our cities, congregations that we're looking at in the Revelation. This one is Pergamum. It's located about 65 miles north of Smyrna, about 15 miles from inland from the Aegean Sea. While it is still a judicial site amongst the Roman government, much of the Roman administration has now been moved to Ephesus. And so perhaps we can say that Pergamum has seen its better days. It's a population made up of a hodgepodge of residents from surrounding regions of Mysia and Lydia, as well as your typical Greeks and Roman business people. Its businesses and industry is textile by and large, production of cloth, dyeing, etc. As we turn to its religious life, the patron goddess of Pergamum was Athena. Dionysus was also worshipped there. And outside the city was a sanctuary dedicated to Asclepius, the god of healing. Wealthy citizens of Pergamum served as priests and founded festivals and conducted rites. Perhaps most important in Pergamum was the imperial cult. This was a source of great civic pride. There was a temple dedicated to Augustus and the goddess of Rome. The imagery of that temple and the artifacts found there emphasized victory and prosperity. This may inform that portrayal of the beast that we find throughout the Revelation. There are many groups, both religious and non-religious, that ascribe divine honors to the emperor. And Christians along that line were expected to accommodate these rites and rituals as well. The Jewish community is a couple centuries old, whereas the Christian community are fairly new kids on the block, only founded in the 80s. A couple of pieces that pop up that may need some explanation. The whole idea of identifying Pergamum as Satan's throne. Of all the 7 churches, only it gets that designation. It probably leads to the fact that among all the cities, Pergamum is the one where a Christian is martyred for their witness, Antipas. He was probably put to death by, at least the assumption anyway, is by a Roman authority. So he died for his faith, his witness, martyr. But the big issue facing Pergamum these days is the whole notion of accommodation, especially the eating of meat offered to idols. And we've run into the Nicolaitans before, the whole sense of that it's okay to do that, to accommodate the faith for social custom. It's this unfaithfulness to God, this idolatry, this commercial accommodation that leads the Revelation to talk about Pergamum with regards to Balaam. I invite you to look up Balaam in the Old Testament, but even apart from that, there is a sense in which within Jewish tradition, Balaam was seen as the one who led Israel astray, both in apostasy, but also in terms of its moral behavior. There's a sense in which Balaam becomes associated with the immoral sexual practices that happened within the temple cult, and also the worship of Baal over the years. And so one of the chief issues for the community and the congregation of Pergamum is, how does it live in the society and yet maintain its Christian values amongst the pressure of accommodation. So, what did you hear as you read this particular section of the Revelation? What were the words, the phrases, the things that jumped out at you? What were the images that struck you? And why do you think that might be? What's going on in your life these days that might attract those ideas to pop up like they do? A second question I'd like you to ponder is, how do we as a church or as individuals accommodate the values in our society? How are we pressured to give in to social norms and values, economically, politically, socially? And how have we succumbed? Or how have we remained faithful? Where are the evidences of that? In your congregation or in your life, your worship as family? And finally, what might our witness, our martyrios, our martyrdom, be that we are called to be about these days? How are we supposed to witness to the faith in the midst of these increasing pressures to accommodate, to give in, to become more like the world around us? How might we live out this witness in our homes, amongst our family, in our places of work, with co-workers, or in our communities, or other government arenas? What's our witness being called upon? I invite you to spend some time, perhaps do a little journaling, or engage your friends in these questions and see where the conversation goes. I hope you have fun with it. Until next time, thank you for tuning in.